Peer pressure is not something that affects only those who are still young. All people, young and old, can be influenced by their friends, and this influence could be either good or bad. Solomon says that he who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm, Proverbs 13 and verse 20. Those who choose to keep company with wise men will learn from them and will become wise themselves. But on the other hand, those who choose to keep company with fools will suffer the fate of a fool. Therefore, companions must be chosen very carefully. I'd like to share with you today two passages from Solomon where he warns of the dangerous influence and peer pressure that comes from evil companions. We find this first passage, Proverbs chapter 1, beginning in verse 10. He says, "My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, 'Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, even whole as those who go down to the pit. We will find all kinds of precious wealth. We will fill our houses with spoil. So throw your lot in with us, and we shall all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them." And then we skip down a few verses and we find these words in our second passage. "Keep your feet from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they hasten to shed blood. Indeed, it is useless to spread the baited net in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who gains by violence. It takes away the life of its possessors." In this passage, Solomon presents several concepts that we need to discuss. He starts out by saying, "My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent." Though Solomon says, "if," he does not mean that sinners might leave some people alone and not try to influence them. Sinners will try to draw others into their ungodly activities, and when this happens, the man who is wise simply states clearly that he will not consent. He will not go along with the things that they try to get him to do. But then Solomon goes on to say, if they say, "Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, let us ambush the innocent without cause, let us swallow them alive like Sheol, even whole as those who go down to the pit." Those who find enjoyment in doing harm to others are not the kinds of friends that we ought to have. And while those who would try to entice us will often not propose such extreme and aggressive actions, a similar attitude of contempt for one's fellow man is very common today, and we should avoid those who have such an attitude about them. We will find all kinds of precious wealth is another thing that they will try to entice us with. We will fill our houses with spoil, so throw in your lot with us, and we shall all have one purse. In their wicked activities, those who would tempt us will offer a share of the spoils of their sin, and this carries with it the idea of fellowship. Yet if one wishes to share in the spoil of sin, he must also share in the punishment of sin. Solomon says, "My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your feet from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they hasten to shed blood." The ones about whom Solomon warns his son are not simply misguided youths who end up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Evil does not just happen to find them. They go out looking for it. Therefore, if one walks in the way with them, he will find himself in the very same trouble with them. Solomon then says, "Indeed it is useless to spread the baited net in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who gains by violence. It takes away the life of its possessors." Though their intention is to take advantage of and harm others, these wicked ones are ultimately destroying themselves. Sin always tempts one to focus on the short-term gains and ignore the long-term consequences. And often, one can see the long-term consequences if he will simply pay attention. Solomon says it is useless to spread the baited net in the sight of any bird. Well, why is this? Because the bird will see it, and not fall for the trap. But often, sinners foolishly see but ignore the damaging effects of their sin, and they will suffer for it. If we consent to go with them, then we too will suffer. Friends, I want to thank you for joining us for our program today, and have a blessed day.